hard for you to speak about him now.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Look, when I'll be honest with you, last night I didn't sleep because I'm talking about him at an event later today. And when I look at the book to refresh my memory, I sleepless nights, because this was not just a wonderful, wonderful friend, who literally a brother. There were no thank yous. You know, he wrote to me and said, you know, I'm not saying thank you because I would do the same for you in reverse. That was the way it was. It was an intensely close relationship, particularly unusual in the South Africa of that time.
Yeah.
And yet, also as a South African, when he died, the loss was just colossal, because this was one of the giants of our history. The man who set an example to what leadership should be, that you give yourself. You know, when he was never a lecturer at Wits. They didn't have a black lecturer. He was called a teaching assistant, a language assistant. But he traveled every day, and he was, in terms of the black existence at the time, he was in the elite to have a job like that, reasonably paid. He traveled from Soweto, third class, in those crowded, crime-ridden trains, because he was of the people. It was a conscious thing in his life. Just before he decided to launch the anti-pass campaign, Rhodes University offered him a lectureship. He would be the first full-time black lecturer in this country. You can imagine the status of that and the comfort of life. He agonized over that. We talked a great deal about it at that time, what he should do. And he agonized, and he decided his responsibility was to his people. He had called on people to go to prison, because the pass laws were these hated laws, and he said, leave your passes at home, offer yourself for arrest at the nearest police station, and I won't ask you to do anything I won't do myself. And he went first. It was brave, it was wonderful. Most of his executive went with him. It was also unwise, because the Pan-Africanist Congress had no leadership left. It just simply collapsed, and it's never picked up again since then.
What can we learn from Sobukwe's life today, do you think?
South Africa today, a great deal. Integrity, belief, commitment to your people, social justice. Look, it's, you know, one can't talk about ifs and so on, but if he was around, he would never stand for what we see in this country today. The corruption, the cronyism, the lack of facilities for so many hundreds of thousands, millions of people. And I come here, and I live in Israel now. I come here, I have a terrible sadness and an anger in me on behalf of those poor sods, those poor people who had hopes and dreams, and they've been dashed. And their guys at the top were living in total comfort. I don't know if they have generators in their homes. They must have. Otherwise, you know, it's with never mind the people at the bottom, the whole thing with electricity in this country is almost beyond belief. You know, there's no investment coming out. Tourism dropped away. Who wants to come to a country or invest in a country where you have these elementary problems? And I just feel a deep sorrow for the people of South Africa. And with Bob would have been so different. He would just never tolerate it for a moment. And what I've written in this epilogue, and the point of this epilogue, the extension of the epilogue, is what I researched. What I seems to be a resurgence of interest in Sobukwe because of what he was. This image of incorruptibility, of honesty, of integrity, of dedication, of giving of yourself to your people. People are looking at that, saying, hey, this is what we need. And I think that's why the book is coming out 25 years later. That's the basic message in it. This giant of a figure. And of course, so far, he's been airbrushed out of history. You don't see many references to him. When I read reports about Sharpeville Day, Human Rights Day, it's almost as though it was an African National Congress event. It's been perverted. He's been pushed aside. And that's a great pity, because Nelson Mandela, who was also a very good friend of mine, and I reported for many years, when he was in the ANC, when he was underground, when he was president, when he was after president. I knew him for many years. And he was a wonderful, obviously, I don't have to say it, everyone knows it. But he's been lifted so high now, and I don't think he would appreciate that. He was very conscious of being a leader, but a leader among others, part of the struggle. And he's been lifted so high now, it's lost proportion.
Well, that was my next question, is do you think when people think about the struggle in Robben Island, they don't remember him the way that they should?
That's exactly the way of putting it.
Yeah.
He's been deified. I think someone referred to him as Jesus Christ or something like that, which is just ridiculous. And to say this doesn't in the slightest way diminish his greatness. You know, that is we know what Madiba was, and the most extraordinary human being. He did so much for this country and for the world. You can't diminish that. But to exaggerate it doesn't do him any service, but it distorts the struggle, it distorts the place of people like Sobukwe. And you know, to go with this thought, I've been very fortunate as a journalist. I was privileged to know and to report a lot of wonderful people. South Africa has been blessed with the quality of the leadership in the resistance who fought against oppression. And it was Sobukwe, Mandela, Oliver Tambo, Chief Luthuli, Zef Matopeng, Ernie Wenzel. I can reel off names to you of people that I knew who were magnificent leaders in this country. Sobukwe is right at the top among them, as Mandela is. And to acknowledge, and the trouble is, these people are being forgotten. I mean, you know, Zef Matopeng, no one will probably know his name. Zef was a teacher, got fired as soon as the Nationalists came in because he opposed Bantu education. Zef went to prison most of his life. In fact, I know one case, they accused him, I remember the details, he got released one day and he started up literally the next day again. He used to joke that he had first gone to prison with his contemporaries, he then went with his children, and at the age of 74, he was jailed with his grandchildren. Now, that's a magnificent person who sets an example to this country, and these people should be held up. These are the examples this country needs, the morality, the integrity, because none of them did it for jobs or salaries or big cars or big houses. They did it, they believed in freedom, full stop. That's why they did it. There was no hope of reward, and that's why the process becomes so corrupted.
Do you think South Africans today are desperate for a leader like one of these people you just mentioned?
I hope so. Needs it. I'm just dismayed by what goes on here. It's gone horribly wrong, and it shouldn't be. I just hope the people at the top can do some self-analysis and look at themselves and see what they're doing.